Are you over 50 and wondering why your hair seems thinner, duller, or just not as vibrant as it used to be? Despite eating what you've always thought of as healthy foods? What if I told you that some fruits you're enjoying, even daily, could be working against your hair's metabolic needs after age 50? Here's what's really going on inside your body once you hit midlife. Your metabolism isn't the same it was at 25. Your insulin sensitivity often drops, your liver's ability to handle sugars becomes less efficient, and your hormones, including thyroid and sex hormones, begin shifting. These are root causes of hair thinning that most people never connect to their diet. And surprisingly, the types of sugars you consume matter, not just how much. Many fruits contain a sugar called fructose. Unlike glucose, which your body uses fairly directly for energy, fructose is almost exclusively metabolized in your liver. When the liver is overloaded, whether by processed sugars or high fructose foods, it ramps up fat synthesis, increases oxidative stress, and influences hormonal systems tied to hair health and aging. Studies show that excessive fructose contributes to inflammatory stress and metabolic disruptions that can indirectly affect the hair growth cycle. Think of your liver like a factory. It has a capacity. When that capacity is overwhelmed by too much fructose freight, the factory slows down and sends stress signals throughout your body. Hair follicles are especially sensitive to these stress signals because they're constantly cycling, requiring a steady supply of nutrients, oxygen, and hormonal support to stay healthy. Now let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine a garden that used to flourish effortlessly. Over time, weeds, inflammation, and metabolic stress start crowding out the plants. You can add water and fertilizer, nutrients, but unless you pull the weeds and fix the soil, your metabolism, the plants will continue to struggle. Hair works the same way. Fixing symptoms, like applying serums or shampoos, doesn't address the deeper physiology behind thinning, breakage, and slowed growth. Today, we're going to uncover 7 fruits, yes, fruits, that may be counterproductive for hair health after age 50. These aren't bad foods in general, but in the context of menopausal shifts, metabolic slowing, and hormonal changes, they can interfere with the building blocks your hair relies on. And don't worry, later in this video, I'll give you natural, science-driven alternatives and strategies to protect your follicles, optimize metabolic pathways, and support luscious hair naturally as you age. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day. Let's begin with a powerful physiological insight that most people over 50 never hear. Eating the wrong fruits, especially those high in fructose and glycemic load, can stress your metabolism, disrupt hormone balance, and indirectly sabotage hair growth. Here's what's really going on inside your body once you hit midlife. Most fruits contain natural sugar called fructose. Unlike the glucose in starchy foods or table sugar, fructose doesn't trigger a quick spike in blood glucose. But that doesn't mean it's inert. Fructose is almost exclusively metabolized in your liver. That's a critical organ for hormone regulation, blood sugar control, and detoxification. When the liver is overloaded with sugar, even from fruit, it responds by increasing fat production, inflammation, and stress signals that ultimately affect your hormones and hair follicle health. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your liver is a factory with limited workers. It can handle only so much sugar at once. Glucose, the kind of sugar your body uses readily, is one type of freight that workers know how to process. Fructose is a different kind of freight that needs extra effort, special machinery, and more energy. When too much fructose arrives at once, like from big servings of certain fruits, the factory gets backed up. This leads to stress signals that ripple through your hormonal systems, especially affecting insulin, DHT, dihydrotestosterone, and other hormones linked to hair growth cycles. In fact, research points to this metabolic connection. Excessive sugar intake, including sugary beverages and high sugar foods, is associated with higher risk of hair loss and thinning. A systematic review published recently showed a correlation between high sugar consumption and hair shedding when looking at dietary patterns and hair outcomes. So, what's the first fruit mistake that's especially problematic after age 50? High fructose fruits that spill sugar too quickly. These include fruits with high glycemic index load, meaning they deliver sugar into your bloodstream faster than your liver can comfortably handle. Think of it like dumping a truckload of freight on a loading dock built for a pickup truck. It overwhelms the system. Examples include dates, extremely sweet and concentrated sugar form pineapple and mango, tropical fruits that digest rapidly lychee, very high sugar content per cup, watermelon in large servings, high GI though low total carbs. When you consume these fruits in large portions, especially on an empty stomach, the liver is immediately taxed with processing fructose. Over time, particularly in people over 50 with naturally slower metabolism and reduced insulin sensitivity, this repeated strain can worsen insulin resistance and promote inflammation. Both insulin resistance and systemic inflammation are known to negatively impact hair follicle function, shortening growth phases and increasing miniaturization of hairs. Here's the practical takeaway in actionable terms. Protocol number 1, timing matters. Don't eat high sugar fruits alone or first thing in the morning. Instead, always pair them with a source of protein, plus healthy fat, e.g. nuts, Greek yogurt, seeds. This combination slows digestion and slows the release of sugar into your bloodstream. Protocol number 2, portion control. Serve size matters. Aim for 1 to 2 cups of high sugar fruit at most, ideally combined with fats, proteins, rather than whole cups alone. Protocol number 3, swap. Smartly, choose low sugar, high fiber fruits like berries, cherries, or apples, which have a much gentler metabolic impact on your liver and insulin response. They give antioxidants that support metabolic health rather than stress it. And here's something many people overlook. Fruits turned into juices or canned in syrup deliver sugar without fiber, causing rapid sugar absorption almost like a soda, which research shows is associated with hair thinning. So the first big lesson is this: not all fruits are equal, especially when you're over 50 and your metabolism and hormones are shifting. Eating them mindlessly can create a metabolic cascade that indirectly impacts hair growth at the root. Let's dig into the second root cause concept. Most people never connect to hair thinning after age 50. It's not just how much sugar you eat, it's how that sugar is delivered, and certain fruits actually deliver it in a way that overwhelms your liver and hormonal systems, disrupting metabolic balance and hair follicle health. Here's what's really going on inside your body after midlife. Your liver plays a central role in metabolizing sugars, especially fructose, the predominant sugar in many fruits. This isn't a sideshow. Fructose metabolism in the liver bypasses the usual checks and balances that glucose goes through. It travels straight through the gatekeeper enzyme, ketohexokinase, gets converted into sugar-building blocks, and drives the production of fatty acids and triglycerides. This can increase fat buildup inside the liver, stress metabolic pathways, and promote insulin resistance over time. Think of it like a highway toll system. Glucose pays its toll and moves along smoothly, regulated by insulin. Fructose, on the other hand, pays no toll and crashes through the barrier straight to the liver, leaving behind traffic jams of fat and metabolic signals that confuse your hormonal systems, including those that regulate hair cell growth. The connection between insulin resistance and hair thinning isn't hypothetical either. What the research and physiological data show is that when your body becomes less sensitive to insulin, your hormonal balance shifts, raising androgens like DHT, dihydrotestosterone, which shortens the hair growth cycle and shrinks hair follicles over time. Here's where fruits come in. Fructose content and glycemic load matter. Some fruits are metabolized quickly and deliver fructose in a concentrated way that stresses the liver and metabolic pathways, particularly in people over 50, whose insulin sensitivity often declines naturally. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine 2 rivers feeding a reservoir, your liver. One river, glucose, enters slowly and predictably. The other river, fructose, comes as a sudden flood after heavy rain. Individually, each is fine, but if they both arrive too fast and in high volume, the reservoir can't manage the flow. Overflow happens, and that overflow is what we call metabolic stress. Over time, chronic stress inflames liver tissue, promotes insulin resistance, and shifts hormonal networks. Now let's talk specifics. Fruits that deliver sugar, too fast after 50. These fruits are high in sugar content and tend to deliver it relatively quickly, especially in large servings. Grapes, very high sugar per serving, figs, dense natural sugars, dates, again, concentrated fructose bombs, bananas in large servings, moderate sugar but easily overeaten. These fruits aren't bad in the abstract. They just deliver a load of sugar that your liver often struggles to handle efficiently after midlife. If your insulin sensitivity is marginal or you have subtle metabolic slowing, these sugars spiking your system can trigger hormonal ripple effects that interfere with hair follicle cycling. Here's the practical science-driven guidance you can apply today. Protocol number 1, pair fruit with protein and fat. Always pair fruits that are higher in sugar with a source of protein plus healthy fat. For example, grapes or figs with a handful of almonds or Greek yogurt. This slows sugar absorption, reducing the metabolic spike your liver and insulin systems must manage. Protocol number 2, watch relative serving size. Your body doesn't metabolize 3 large portions the same as 1 small one. Keep high sugar fruits to 1/4, 1/2 cup servings if eaten at all, and ideally post-meal rather than on an empty stomach. Protocol number 3, time strategically. Avoid higher sugar fruits first thing in the morning or late at night when your metabolic systems are less responsive. Instead, choose them in the middle of a balanced meal. Lower sugar fruit, like berries, can be eaten more freely. Now let's move into something even more important. And this is where most people completely miss the connection. It's not just about insulin, it's about glycation. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When sugar circulates in your bloodstream, especially in repeated spikes, it binds to proteins in a process called glycation. This forms compounds known as advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. And one of the main proteins sugar binds to? Collagen. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine collagen as the scaffolding that holds up a building. It provides strength and structure, not just to your skin, but also to your scalp and the connective tissue surrounding hair follicles. Now imagine pouring syrup over that scaffolding every day. It hardens, it becomes brittle, it loses flexibility. That's glycation. Research shows that excess sugar intake accelerates age formation, which contributes to tissue aging, inflammation, and oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is one of the major drivers of hair follicle miniaturization and thinning over time. After age 50, your body naturally produces less collagen. At the same time, antioxidant defenses decline. That means the damage from glycation becomes more pronounced and recovery becomes slower. Now here's where certain fruits become problematic: fruit juices, smoothies, and dried fruits. These are some of the most underestimated hair aging triggers. Why? Because when you juice fruit or blend it heavily, you remove or destroy much of the fiber structure that slows sugar absorption. Instead of a gradual release of glucose and fructose, you get a rapid surge. A glass of orange juice, for example, can contain the sugar equivalent of 3 to 4 oranges, but without the fiber barrier. Dried fruits like raisins and dates are even more concentrated. The water is removed, but the sugar remains, making them dense sugar delivery systems. From a metabolic perspective, this is almost like drinking soda, and repeated glucose spikes increase glycation and oxidative stress, both of which impair the hair growth cycle. What the research shows is that high glycemic diets are associated with increased inflammatory markers and increased androgen activity, both linked to pattern hair thinning. So the issue isn't fruit itself, it's concentrated sugar exposure without metabolic buffering. Now here's what to do instead. Protocol number 1, eat whole, intact fruit. Only never drink your fruit. Avoid fruit juices entirely, even fresh pressed. If you consume fruit, eat it whole so the fiber slows absorption. Protocol number 2, avoid dried fruit as a snack. Dried mango, raisins, dates, these are essentially sugar concentrates. If used at all, treat them like dessert, not health food. Protocol number 3, add glycation protection nutrients. Increase intake of vitamin C, supports collagen production. Alpha lipoic acid supports glucose metabolism. Polyphenols from berries and green tea reduce oxidative stress. These compounds help counteract glycation stress and protect connective tissue, including the tissue supporting your follicles. Protocol number 4, consider time-restricted eating. Short daily fasting windows, 12 to 14 hours overnight, improve insulin sensitivity and reduce cumulative glucose exposure. Lower glucose exposure, your lower glycation burden. This is root cause thinking. We're not blaming fruit. We're protecting the metabolic terrain that hair follicles depend on. Because once collagen around the follicle stiffens and microinflammation sets in, hair becomes thinner, weaker, and more prone to shedding. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day, breaking down physiology into tools you can actually use. And remember this key principle. After 50, it's not about eating less, it's about eating smarter for your metabolic stage of life. Let's talk about something that almost no one connects to hair thinning, cortisol. Because here's what's really going on inside your body. When you eat high sugar fruit, especially on an empty stomach, your blood glucose rises quickly. Your pancreas releases insulin to bring it down. But if that spike is sharp, the drop can also be sharp. This creates what we call a reactive blood sugar crash. And when blood sugar drops too quickly, your body sees that as a threat. So what does it do? It releases cortisol and adrenaline to bring glucose back up. Now let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your blood sugar is like the fuel gauge in your car. If it gradually lowers, no problem, you refill calmly. But if it suddenly drops from half tank to near empty in minutes, alarms go off. Emergency systems activate. Cortisol is that emergency system. And here's the problem. After age 50, baseline cortisol levels often increase with age. Sleep becomes lighter. Stress resilience declines. Hormonal buffering becomes weaker, especially in postmenopausal women and men with declining testosterone. So when you repeatedly trigger sharp glucose swings with certain fruits, you're not just affecting insulin, you're activating stress physiology. Research shows that chronic cortisol elevation can prematurely push hair follicles from the growth phase, anagen, into the resting phase, telogen. That means more shedding, slower regrowth, and thinner density over time. And which fruits are most likely to trigger this effect? Fruits consumed alone. That spike glucose. Quickly examples include ripe bananas eaten solo, large servings of watermelon, pineapple on an empty stomach, fruit smoothies without protein or fat, morning fruit bowls with no metabolic buffering. The issue isn't the fruit itself, it's the context. When eaten alone, especially first thing in the morning, these fruits can cause faster glucose absorption. That spike, crash, cortisol surge cycle becomes a daily pattern. Over months and years, that pattern influences insulin sensitivity, thyroid conversion, T4 to T3, androgen balance, hair follicle cycling. This is why many people say, I eat healthy, I start my day with fruit, so why is my hair thinning? Because healthy isn't just about nutrients, it's about metabolic stability. Now here's the practical correction. Protocol number 1, never eat fruit alone. After 50, always pair fruit with eggs, Greek yogurt, nuts or seeds, protein, smoothie with added fats. This slows gastric emptying and flattens the glucose curve. Protocol number 2, shift fruit to post-meal. Instead of fruit as breakfast, have it after a balanced lunch containing protein and fiber. This reduces the spike amplitude dramatically. Protocol number 3, stabilize morning cortisol. Within 30-60 minutes of waking, get natural sunlight. Eat protein first, not sugar. Avoid fruit-only breakfasts. This aligns cortisol rhythm naturally rather than amplifying it. Protocol number 4, choose low glycemic fruits, berries, kiwi, green apples. These create much gentler glucose curves compared to tropical fruits. Here's the key takeaway. Hair follicles are highly sensitive mini organs. They respond to hormonal signals, stress chemistry, and metabolic swings. When cortisol rises frequently, follicles shorten their growth phase, And after 50, recovery capacity is lower. So the goal is simple: flatten the curve, stabilize the hormones, protect the follicle environment. Because when blood sugar is stable, insulin is controlled, and cortisol is regulated, hair biology improves. Now let's shift gears slightly, because hair thinning after 50 is not only about sugar spikes or cortisol, it's also about nutrient allocation. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your liver is a central processing unit. It doesn't just handle sugar, it activates thyroid hormones, processes estrogen, stores iron, converts vitamin A, regulates zinc, and produces proteins necessary for healthy tissue growth. Hair follicles are metabolically active structures. They require iron, zinc, biotin, vitamin D, adequate protein, proper thyroid signaling. Now imagine this: if your liver is constantly busy processing repeated fructose loads from high sugar fruits, smoothies, dried fruits, and juices, its metabolic bandwidth gets consumed. Let me explain this with a whiteboard analogy. Picture your liver like a small airport with limited runways. Every incoming fructose load is a plane that must land, unload, and be processed. If too many sugar planes land back to back, other critical flights, like hormone regulation and micronutrient activation, get delayed. That delay shows up as sluggish thyroid conversion, poor iron utilization, reduced protein synthesis, subtle nutrient deficiencies. And here's what makes this worse after 50. Stomach acid production declines, protein absorption efficiency decreases, liver detoxification capacity may slow. So when diet patterns skew toward higher fruit sugar and lower protein intake, especially fruit-heavy breakfasts or snacks, you unintentionally crowd out the nutrients your hair follicles depend on. This is what I call nutrient displacement. It's not that fruit removes nutrients. It's that high sugar fruit patterns replace protein-rich, mineral-dense foods and demand metabolic processing energy at the same time. Research consistently shows that iron deficiency, zinc deficiency, and protein inadequacy are among the most common contributors to hair thinning in adults over 50. And here's the critical insight: you cannot build strong hair from a body that is metabolically prioritizing sugar clearance over tissue repair. Now let's talk about the specific fruit patterns that create this displacement problem. Fruit-only breakfasts, smoothie bowls without protein, dried fruit snacks instead of nuts or eggs, large fruit salads replacing balanced meals. These patterns feel healthy, but metabolically they are incomplete. Now here's the correction protocol. Protocol number 1, protein. First rule: start every meal, especially breakfast, with 25-35 grams of protein before adding fruit. Eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, protein shakes, sardines. This stabilizes metabolism and ensures amino acids are available for hair keratin production. Protocol number 2, add mineral density, incorporate zinc-rich foods, pumpkin seeds, beef, oysters, iron sources, red meat, lentils with vitamin C, and iodine support, seafood. Hair follicles are mineral-sensitive tissues. Protocol number 3, support liver function. Add cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, arugula, green tea, and adequate hydration to assist liver processing capacity. Lower sugar load plus higher micronutrient density, sheds better metabolic allocation. Protocol number 4, consider strategic supplementation. If labs show low ferritin, low vitamin D, or borderline thyroid markers, address those with professional guidance. Hair growth is highly dependent on optimal, not just normal ranges. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day, focused on fixing the root causes, not just masking symptoms, because here's the truth. After 50, your body becomes more selective about where it spends energy, and if your dietary pattern constantly demands sugar processing, hair becomes a lower priority. But when you stabilize blood sugar, increase protein, and reduce unnecessary fructose load, your body reallocates resources toward repair and regeneration. That includes your hair. Now we arrive at the final and perhaps most important, physiological layer, because hair loss after 50 is not just hormonal, it is deeply connected to inflammation and microcirculation. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Hair follicles are among the fastest dividing cells in your body. That means they require steady oxygen delivery, stable blood sugar, balanced hormones, low inflammatory signaling. When inflammation rises, even subtly, the tiny blood vessels that feed your follicles begin to constrict or function less efficiently. This reduces nutrient and oxygen delivery to the root of the hair. And here's where high sugar fruit patterns can quietly contribute. Excess fructose metabolism in the liver increases uric acid production and promotes oxidative stress. Elevated uric acid and oxidative stress are associated with endothelial dysfunction, meaning your blood vessels don't dilate as efficiently. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your scalp is a lawn and your blood vessels are the irrigation system. If inflammation narrows the pipes and pressure becomes unstable, the grass doesn't die overnight, but it grows thinner, weaker, and patchy over time. That's what happens to follicles when chronic metabolic inflammation is present. Research shows that diets high in refined sugars and high glycemic load increase systemic inflammatory markers. Inflammation, in turn, influences the hair growth cycle, pushing follicles into premature resting phases and impairing regeneration. Now again, fruit is not inherently inflammatory, but certain fruits, in certain forms, in excess, and in the wrong metabolic context, can amplify inflammatory signaling after 50. Here are the biggest culprits: fruit juices, rapid absorption, high load; large tropical fruit servings, mango, pineapple; dried fruits, concentrated sugar density; fruit-based desserts marketed as natural repeated snacking on high sugar fruits throughout the day. The key issue is cumulative sugar exposure. After 50, metabolic flexibility declines. Your ability to buffer oxidative stress decreases. Recovery slows. So, what once caused no visible issue at 30 can quietly contribute to inflammatory terrain at 55 or 60. Now, here's how we reverse that terrain. Protocol number 1, anti-inflammatory fruit strategy. Prioritize fruits rich in polyphenols and low in sugar. Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, pomegranate, small portions. These fruits provide antioxidant compounds that improve endothelial function and reduce oxidative stress. Protocol number 2, reduce frequency, not just quantity. Instead of fruit multiple times daily, consolidate intake into one metabolically buffered serving. Lower frequency, lower cumulative inflammatory exposure. Protocol number 3, increase nitric oxide support to improve scalp blood flow. Leafy greens, beetroot in controlled amounts, walking daily. Resistance training movement improves microcirculation more powerfully than any supplement. Protocol number 4, protect mitochondria. Hair follicles depend on mitochondrial energy. Support this with CoQ10, if appropriate. Magnesium, adequate sleep, stable blood sugar. Because here's the deeper truth. Hair thinning after 50 is often a reflection of systemic metabolic aging. When inflammation rises, microcirculation declines, and oxidative stress accumulates, follicles receive the message that the environment is not optimal for growth, so they shrink. But when you reduce sugar load, support liver function, stabilize insulin, lower cortisol, and increase anti-inflammatory nutrients, the environment shifts. And hair responds to environment always. Hair thinning after 50 isn't random, it's metabolic. When fructose overloads the liver, insulin rises, cortisol spikes, glycation increases, and inflammation builds. Your hair follicles feel it. They respond to hormones. They respond to blood sugar. They respond to the internal environment you create every day. This isn't about fearing fruit. It's about eating it strategically. Lower the sugar load, prioritize protein, choose berries over juices, stabilize your metabolism, and your hair will reflect that stability. Try just one change this week and pay attention to how your body responds. If this helped you understand the science more clearly, like the video and subscribe. Your health and your hair depend on the terrain you build.